Cold tile under bare feet. 6 in the morning, kitchen floor, coffee not made yet, and your toes do something you never told them to do. They curl, just slightly, gripping the tile like it might move. Nobody taught you that. Your feet decided on their own, in the half second before your brain caught up, that the ground needed to be held onto. And here's the part I want you to sit with before we go any further. That same grip, that exact pattern of curling, bracing, holding, is quietly rehearsing itself in your jaw right now, in your cheeks, along the sides of your mouth. You've been doing the facial version of that toe curl for years without ever standing on tile. Curl your toes right now, wherever you are, under the desk, in the car, on the couch. Curl them, hold for 3 seconds, let go. Notice what happened in your jaw at the exact same moment. For most people, something moved up there too. A tiny clench, a pull at the corners of the mouth. That's not a coincidence, and it's not your imagination. It's a wiring pattern your body built before you could walk, and it never got the memo to stop running. I want to tell you about my grandmother's feet before I tell you anything else, because the shape of this whole idea lives in them. She grew up on a farm, and from spring to the first hard frost, she was barefoot from the porch to the barn to the garden and back. Cold dirt in April, warm dust in July, sharp gravel by the well that made her walk differently for 3 days after she stepped on it wrong. Her feet knew the ground the way a river knows its bank, not by thinking about it, by being shaped by it, over and over, for decades. My daughter has never done that. Her feet have lived inside cushioned soles since she could stand. And I don't say that with judgment. I say it because it's the first thread of something I've been circling for a long time in my work, and it took me longer than it should have to see the whole shape of it. Here's where the spiral starts, and I promise we'll come back around to this more than once tonight, each time a little deeper. The surface version of the idea is simple. Feet that can't feel the ground send confused signals up the chain. Confused signals up the chain create constant, low-grade bracing everywhere above them, including your face. That's the beginner's version, and it's true as far as it goes, but it doesn't go nearly far enough. And by the end of what I'm about to walk you through, you'll understand why the toe curl isn't a foot exercise that happens to help your face. It's a face exercise that happens to start at the ground. Let's go back to that tile for a second, because the sensation matters more than the explanation right now. When your bare sole meets a cold, hard, textured surface, thousands of tiny receptors in the skin and joints of your foot fire almost instantly. They're not measuring temperature so much as they're measuring terrain. Is this surface stable? Is it slick? Is it going to shift under me? Your nervous system reads the ground the way an experienced hiker reads a trail in the dark, without a flashlight, just by feel, weight shifting a half second before the conscious mind knows why. That reading happens in your feet roughly 200 times faster than it takes you to consciously notice you're standing on something cold. And that reading doesn't stay in your feet. It can't. The signal travels up through your ankles, into the muscles that stabilize your shins, up through your knees and hips, along your spine, through the muscles at the base of your skull, and this is the part almost nobody connects, straight into the small muscles that control your jaw and the tension around your eyes and mouth. There's a well-documented reflex loop that links neck posture, jaw position, and facial muscle tone. It's one of the reasons dentists sometimes see jaw clenching improve when someone's overall posture is corrected. And one of the reasons physical therapists working on ankle stability sometimes hear patients say their face feels different afterward, almost as a surprised side note. The body doesn't organize itself in isolated parts. It organizes itself as one continuous conversation, and your feet are where that conversation starts every single time you stand up. Now think about what happens when the ground stops sending clear signals. Cushioned soles, thick socks, carpet everywhere, hours in shoes with arch support so aggressive your foot barely has to do anything at all. It's not that this is catastrophic, it's that your feet go quiet. And when the part of the chain that's supposed to be reading the terrain goes quiet, something else has to compensate, because your nervous system does not tolerate silence from a system it depends on for balance. It starts bracing preemptively instead of responding accurately. It grips before it needs to, everywhere up the line, all day without you noticing, because none of this happens at a level you can consciously feel unless you go looking for it. That's the first pass through the spiral. Feet stop reading the ground clearly. The whole chain starts bracing instead of responding. And your face, which sits at the very top of that chain, right where the neck meets the skull, ends up holding tension that has nothing to do with stress, nothing to do with age, and everything to do with a conversation that started at your soles 30 years ago and never really stopped. Here's a number worth sitting with. Research into standing posture and facial EMG activity, the electrical signal that measures how much a muscle is actually firing, has found that when people's base of support becomes unstable or underinformed, activity in the muscles around the jaw and lower face increases measurably, often without any awareness on the person's part that their expression has changed at all. One study tracking this kind of postural facial link found jaw muscle activity rising by roughly a third when standing balance was challenged, compared to standing on a stable textured surface where the foot could read the ground clearly. A third. That's not nothing. That's the difference between a face at rest and a face quietly working a night shift it never agreed to. I know what some of you are thinking, and it's the right instinct to have. This can't be the whole story, because plenty of people who wear shoes their whole lives have soft, unguarded faces, and plenty of barefoot hikers have deep lines at 40. You're right. This is one thread in a much larger weave. Not a single cause with a single fix, but it's a thread almost nobody pulls on. And it's one of the few threads you can start pulling on tonight for free in 60 seconds without a needle anywhere near your face. So let's spiral in one more layer, because there's something underneath even the reflex loop. And it's the part that changed how I think about this entirely. Your feet aren't just sensors, they're also anchors. The only part of your body in constant, direct negotiation with something that isn't you. Everything else moves relative to your feet. Your spine sways, your shoulders rotate, your head tilts, and all of that motion is calculated moment to moment against the fixed point where your soles meet the earth. When that fixed point is clear and confident, the rest of the structure above it can afford to relax. The way a tent stays taut and calm when its stakes are driven in deep and solid. When that fixed point is vague, soft, cushioned, unread, everything above it has to work harder to feel secure, has to grip a little tighter just to compensate for the uncertainty underneath. Your jaw doesn't know it's compensating for your feet. It just knows it's not quite sure of the ground it's standing on, in the most literal sense possible. And it responds the only way muscle tissue knows how to respond to uncertainty. It tightens. That's the deepest layer of the spiral, and it's the one I actually want you to remember when everything else fades. Your face is not bracing because it's aging. Your face is bracing because somewhere underneath it, a fixed point stopped feeling fixed, and nobody ever asked it to feel fixed again. Everything I've just walked you through, the reflex path from sole to jaw, the anchor point that everything above it depends on, the way 30 years of cushioned quiet can turn into a face that grips without permission. All of it lives inside one connected system. And the toe curl I'm about to give you is the fastest door back into it. It's not the whole house. My full 60-day protocol, the Connected Face Protocol, walks through all 12 of the release points along this same chain, sequenced so each one builds on the last, with diagrams showing exactly where your hands go and a tracking sheet so you're not guessing whether it's working. Tonight, we're opening one door. You'll find the full protocol linked in the description and the pinned comment if you want the rest of the house. Let's go back to the grandmother for a second, because there's a piece of her story I haven't told you yet. She was in her 80s when I last really looked at her hands and feet up close, at a kitchen table, the same kind of cold tile under both of us. Her face had lines, plenty of them. She never claimed otherwise and never wanted to. But her jaw, at rest, in sleep, in conversation, was soft in a way I'd stopped seeing in most people decades younger than her. I used to think that was just her temperament, calm woman, calm face. It took me years of doing this work to wonder if it was something else entirely. 80 years of feet that never stopped reading the ground clearly, feeding a nervous system that never had to guess where the fixed point was. I can't prove that's the whole reason. I want to be honest about that. What I can tell you is what happens physiologically, right now, in real time, when you give your feet back that clarity, even for 60 seconds, even decades after the pattern set in. Here's the protocol, and I want you to actually do this with me, not just listen to it. Find bare feet and a hard floor. Tile, hardwood, even a firm rug will do if that's what you have. Stand with your feet hip width apart. Now curl your toes under, all 10 of them, pressing them down and slightly in, the way they curled on that cold tile at the start of this, except now you're doing it on purpose. Hold that curl for a full 4-count breath in through your nose. At the peak of the curl, you should feel the arch of your foot lift slightly and the muscles along the inside of your shin engage. That's correct. That's the chain waking up. Release the curl completely, letting your toes spread flat and wide against the floor, and exhale for a 4-count as they do. That's 1 cycle. Do 10 cycles, slowly, without rushing. The whole sequence takes almost exactly 60 seconds if you breathe it properly, instead of speeding through it. While you're doing the 10th cycle, bring your attention up to your jaw without changing anything on purpose. Just notice it. Most people, by the 10th curl, report the same thing. Their back teeth have unclenched slightly. Their tongue has dropped from the roof of the mouth, and there's a looseness around the mouth that wasn't there when they started. That's not relaxation you talked yourself into. That's the reflex loop responding to a foot that finally sent it a clear signal. Do this once in the morning, barefoot, before your feet disappear into shoes for 12 hours. If you can manage a second round in the evening, standing on the same bare floor, even better, that's the moment the chain gets to reset before sleep, before it spends 8 hours bracing against nothing in particular. 10 cycles, twice a day if you can, once if that's all you have. 60 seconds is the whole ask. For the first week, you're mostly rebuilding a signal that's gone quiet, not undoing years of tension. By week 2, most people notice the unclenching happens faster, 5 or 6 curls instead of 10 before the jaw lets go. That's your nervous system relearning something it always knew and simply stopped practicing. I want to be exact about what this does and doesn't do, because I think you deserve better than vague promises. This will not erase a wrinkle that's already carved into skin over 40 years. What it does, consistently, is give the muscles under that skin permission to stop working a shift they were never supposed to be working in the first place. 60 seconds a day gives your jaw the same message a good pair of hands gives it in a massage chair, except this message comes from underneath, from the one part of you still in direct contact with something solid. Twice a day, for free, for the rest of your life. There's a reason I keep circling back to that cold tile instead of just telling you the mechanism once and moving on. It's because understanding a thing intellectually and feeling it in your own body are 2 completely different kinds of knowing, and only one of them changes how your face sits when nobody's watching. You can know, right now, everything I've told you about reflex loops and anchor points and 30 years of cushioned silence. None of it does anything until your bare foot meets a hard floor and curls on purpose instead of by accident. So here's what I'd ask you to hold on to instead of a takeaway, instead of a clean bow tied on the end of this. The next time you catch your own toes curling without permission, in a cold parking lot, stepping onto tile and socks, anywhere, pay attention to your jaw in that same second. Don't fix it, just notice it. Because once you felt that connection happen on its own, uninvited, you'll never quite unsee it again. And I'm genuinely curious what you'll find when you start looking. If any of this landed, if you've got a foot on a hard floor right now doing its first curl, that alone tells me more than a comment ever could. Though if you want to compare notes with people doing the same 60 seconds every morning, that's what the comments are for. If this felt like nothing you needed, that's honest information too. And either way, I'd rather you walk away with one true thing than 10 forgettable ones. Some of you will do this tonight and forget by Thursday. Some of you will do it every morning for a month and watch your jaw learn something it forgot it knew. I can't tell you which one you'll be. I can only tell you the floor is still there, cold, waiting, whenever you're ready to stand on it. Let me tell you something my grandmother used to say, back before I understood why she said it. She grew up without shoes half the year, on a farm where you didn't waste leather on a child's feet in summer. She used to tell me the ground was the first doctor anybody ever had, long before the ground got replaced by carpet and car mats and gym floors with springs built into them to make sure you never had to feel anything hard again. I thought that was just something old people said to make poverty sound like wisdom. I don't think that anymore. I think she was describing, in her own language, exactly the mechanism I've spent the last several minutes trying to explain to you in mine. Because here's the thing about a reflex arc. It doesn't care how you found it. It doesn't care if you found it through a study on fascial tension, or through 80 years of walking barefoot on Kentucky clay, or through a cold bathroom floor at 6 in the morning because the heat hadn't kicked on yet. The nervous system isn't impressed by vocabulary. It responds to input. And input, for most of human history, was constant. Bare skin against variable ground, dozens of times a day, every single day, from the time you could stand until the time you couldn't anymore. What we're doing when we deliberately curl the toes against tile for 60 seconds isn't some biohack. It's a simulation. It's us, in shoes 14 hours a day, on carpet the other 10, trying to manufacture in a minute what used to just happen to us constantly, without asking, as a side effect of being alive outdoors. That's worth sitting with, because it reframes the whole exercise. You're not doing something unusual. You're doing something ancient, badly diluted, in a concentrated dose, because the dilute version got engineered out of your day by rubber soles and finished floors. The strange thing isn't that curling your toes affects your jaw. The strange thing is that we built an entire civilization efficient enough to remove that input almost completely, and somehow expected the rest of the system downstream, the shoulders, the neck, the face, to just keep functioning as if nothing had changed. So if you want to go further than 60 seconds, and some of you will, here's where I'd point you next, cautiously, because I don't want to turn a nervous system reset into another item on a wellness checklist you feel guilty about skipping. Vary the surface. Grass, if you have access to it, does something tile can't. It's uneven, so the reflex fires slightly differently every time instead of learning one fixed pattern. Sand is even better, and worse, in the sense that it'll humble you fast if your feet have been asleep for decades. You don't need to chase any of this. The tile is enough. But if the tile starts to feel too easy, too automatic, that's usually the nervous system telling you it wants more variety, not less input altogether. And I'd say this too, since I told you earlier I wanted to be exact about what this can and can't do. There will be mornings this doesn't work, where you stand on the floor, you curl your toes, you wait for that little wave to travel up through you, and you feel nothing. That's not failure, and it's not a sign the whole idea was nonsense. Some mornings the signal's just quieter. Same as some mornings you wake up and your hands feel clumsy before coffee. Same as some days a stretch that usually loosens your hips just doesn't. Bodies have weather. The instruction isn't do this and always feel something. The instruction is keep the channel open, so that on the mornings it does work, it works, instead of a channel so overgrown with disuse that nothing gets through even when your whole system's asking for it. I think that's really what atrophy is, when you strip the medical language off it. Not a muscle disappearing. Muscles are stubborn. They don't vanish overnight. But a channel closing. A conversation two parts of your body used to have constantly, all day, without your permission, slowly going quiet because nobody kept dialing the number. Your jaw and the soles of your feet were never supposed to be strangers to each other. 30, 40 years of shoes and car seats and office chairs made them strangers. 60 seconds a day is just you, reintroducing two old friends who forgot they used to talk. I keep coming back to that image because I think it's truer than anything a diagram could show you. Truer than fascial planes, truer than kinetic chains, truer than any term I could throw at you to sound more credible. Two parts of the same body quietly disconnected by decades of comfort, waiting for one deliberate curl to remember each other. That's not a metaphor I'm using to dress up a stretch. That's, as far as I can tell, close to literally what's happening under your skin the moment your foot meets that floor. So go back to where we started. The cold tile, the instinctive curl nobody taught you, the one your body still knows even though you stopped asking it to perform on purpose. That's still the whole lesson. Everything else has just been me walking around it from different angles so it would actually land, instead of sliding past you like every other piece of advice you've heard and forgotten by lunch. You don't need to remember fascia or reflex arcs or anything I called by its proper name tonight. You just need to remember the floor. Cold, patient, still there in the morning, still willing to teach your jaw something the moment you're ready to stand on it and actually pay attention.